reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word directly or indirectly every day.
That's right, directly or indirectly. That means nobody's calling him the N-word every day, but he imagines it. That's the indirectly part. Former Democrat congressman, still a Democrat, Jamal Fire Alarm Bowman. 5-alarm Jamal. That's why. Why is there cancer? Well, because people use the N-word. Rappers do. And mostly black movie stars, and Quentin Tarantino too. Quentin Tarantino is a known carcinogen now. Isn't that amazing? I got to say, Jamal Bowman, we were talking about during the break, and now I want to share a little bit more of it with you. That's because the N-word, and that's the Democrats bandied about, and Quentin Tarantino and rappers, and they gave Kendrick Lamar the Pulitzer Prize, which is not given for music, to Kendrick Lamar because he causes more cancer. He's a known carcinogen, and like Quentin Tarantino is. Just amazing stuff. And then Jamal Bowman, you really have to go back looking. I had to look it up because a long time ago. But here comes now former Democrat Congressman Jamal Bowman on the horrors that black people suffer in a racist America.
Rodney King, Abner Louima, Eric Gardner, Trayvon Martin. The racism in this country is the disease that will destroy us.
That's right. It is. Trayvon Martin. Maybe homophobia was the disease that will destroy us. Homophobia is the disease that destroyed Trayvon Martin. I'll tell you that. Because, again, we were talking about this. I just want to, first of all, Michael Brown, hands up, don't shoot. Never happened. A fiction fabricated by the liars in the Democrat Party. But I repeat myself. And let's go to Rachel Jeantel. First of all, I want to say that citing Rodney King, what decade was that? That was in the last century, and we're a quarter of the way through this century, and I'll make a broader point in just a moment. And Trayvon Martin was killed in, 2012, which is 2012. That is 13 years ago, February of 2012, and Trayvon Martin, the hero of the story, was cutting through. Play went and got his skillets. Remember, the Reverend Al Charlatan said he had his iced tea and his skillets. They're called Skittles, but the Reverend Al kept calling them that because English is not one of his languages. Nobody knows what languages are his, but never mind that. And he was cutting through a housing complex where there have been a lot of burglaries of late. And so they had a neighborhood watch guy named George Zimmerman. You remember the New York Times identified him as a white Hispanic because they wanted to racially polarize it to the maximum extent possible. He was, I think he even had a Spanish language accent, and but his last name Zimmerman, so it confused the New York Times. And so they called him a white Hispanic. And that to racially polarize. Trayvon Martin, of course, black. He's cutting through. He had his skillets and his iced tea.
Skillets and IT.
And IT. He had skillets and information technology with him. And he also had a backpack with burglary tools. And again, the neighborhood watch guy, the white Hispanic, George Zimmerman, he was on the lookout because they had a lot of burglaries. And when the hero of the story, Trayvon Martin, he was killed by the neighborhood watch guy because he violently attacked the neighborhood watch guy, was banging his head against the ground 13 years ago, nearly a decade and a half ago, right? And this is what he's focused on, the congressman. But Michael and I have functional memories in spite of everything. And we remembered Trayvon Martin's good friend, a young woman at the time named Rachel Jeantel. Trayvon Martin saw the neighborhood watch guy in an SUV, called his gal pal, Rachel Jeantel, and said, hey, there's a guy following me He's a creepy-ass cracker, and he's going to follow me home and rape my little brother because he's a gay rapist. And this happens all the time in somebody's world. And this is what Rachel John Tull told CNN at the time.
Definitely after I say it might be a rapist. For every boys or every man, who's not that kind of way, see a grown man following them.
Neighborhood
Would
watch.
they be creep out? He didn't want that creepy-ass cracker going to his father girlfriend house. Mind you, his little brother was there. I told Trayvon might have been a rapist.
She told Trayvon that he might have been a rapist, and he's the neighborhood watch guy, and he's in an SUV in his own neighborhood, and he's going to follow Trayvon home, and he might be a rapist and rape his little brother at his father's girlfriend's house or something like that. Isn't that amazing? But that is what Congressman Jamal Bowman is talking about yesterday. Truly remarkable things. The Eric Garner thing choked to that because the Democrats made it illegal to sell loose cigarettes. And that's one of the Democrats' laws in New York City, but never mind that. Also, I just did a quick lookup because if you're very concerned about Trayvon Martin and Eric Gardner, and Eric Gardner was a completely screwy thing, but that said, the homicide rate for African-American men in the United States is like a war zone every year. And maybe Jamal Bowman should be more concerned with what's going on now. In 2023, the FBI reported that just black people in the United States, 9,284 black people murdered in the United States. That represents 54% of the murder victims in the United States. More than half, significantly more than half of the murder victims. But wait, black people are only 13% of the population, and black men are only 6.5% of the population, and 54% of the murder victims in the United States. Who do you think's doing the murdering 94% of the time? But isn't that amazing? 9,284. That number is larger than the number of African Americans that died in the entire Vietnam War between 1959 and 1975, and that's just 1 year, and Congressman Jamal Bowman doesn't have anything to say about that at all. Aren't they amazing? Now, specifically concerning firearm-related homicides in 2023, black Americans accounted for 59, almost 60, almost 6 out of 10 victims. And the FBI counted the number there at 10,563. So, honestly, the murders in the United States, and he's still talking about a 13-year ago, unfortunate, it wasn't a homicide, although the Democrats tried to make it one, because Trayvon Martin was cutting through, and it's fine, you're cutting through a neighborhood. The neighborhood watch guy sees you. He staked him out, and they had the phone records. Maybe he hid behind a building for like 6 minutes. Could have been home, sitting on his couch by this time. It was only a couple blocks away. Could have just kept walking. Would have literally been home at the time. But he lurked behind a building, jumped the neighborhood watch guy. The neighborhood watch guy had a legal firearm, defended himself after having the back of his head slammed against the sidewalk. And Rachel John Tull was telling him, yeah, he's going to go home and rape your little brother. And no man who isn't that way wants that. And he's still the hero of the story. These are amazing people, the Democrats.
The racism in this country is the disease that will destroy us. And it's destroying us right now as we speak. January 6th.
Yeah, January 6th. That's true. One young white woman was shot and murdered by a black man that day. And that's his example. These are not bright people. This is the Congress of the United States of America in the 21st century. Aren't they amazing? Man, your Democrat Party. All right, let's go. So Jamal Bowman, he's all over it because the N-word or something like that. And pay no attention to the 10,000 black murders a year, 54% of the homicides when black men are 6% of the population. Actually, if you narrow it down for age, eliminate 9-year-olds and 90-year-olds. It's 5% of the population, adult black males. But pay no attention to that, because the Democrats, they know what the problem is. It's Kendrick Lamar. All right, now let's get back to the big news of the day, because these guys, I gotta tell you, Democrat vice mayor urging gangs to organize to attack ICE, Immigration Customs Enforcement, in defense of illegal alien gang members. They got to have the cholos organized, get to the streets to take on ICE. Isn't that amazing? Oh, here's a funny story. Speaking of dim-witted Democrats, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is a phony. That's the headline here. Republican calls out AOC's Bronx Girl claim, with the words Bronx Girl in quotation marks, with Yorktown Yearbook. Now, I've talked to you about this many times before. AOC is a complete fraud. I've gone to Google Earth. I love Google Earth on the iPad. It's an amazing tool. Not Google Maps, Google Earth, completely different thing. 3D, Street View, all this good stuff. But GOP Assemblyman calls out AOC's suburban roots with yearbook proof after Trump spat. Now, New York State Assemblyman shares yearbook photo showing Ocasio-Cortez attended suburban high school nearly an hour from the Bronx. And that's driving in a car, not walking. Driving in a car about an hour north of the Bronx. And I looked at this it's way up in Westchester County, barely within artillery range of the Bronx, at a high school that's one of the nicest high schools I've ever seen. I went and I looked at her house on Google Earth, had the address at one point, a beautiful little house, not a giant house, but a nice house with a nice yard and a beautiful neighborhood, tree-lined streets and stuff. But she, AOC, goes around and she whipped out this stuff. We have that thing of her, right, saying, oh, Trump bad, and I'm a girl from the Bronx.
You know, the president is from Queens, and with all due respect, half of my district is from Queens. I don't think he knows how to deal with a girl from the Bronx.
We'll see.
And the idiot crowd goes wild because they have to prove on a daily basis that they're idiots. Just amazing. But this state rep in New York, Matt Slater, who went to high school there too. AOC, if you're a BX girl, a Bronx girl, then why are you in my Yorktown Heights yearbook? Give it up already. And here's the picture of her. Also, she went by the name Sandy Cortez. And everybody knows this, but she keeps going around saying, you know, I'm a Bronx girl, and Trump, he doesn't get it because he's not a Bronx girl. If he declares himself to be a Bronx girl, I think the Democrat Party has to recognize him as a Bronx girl. But isn't that amazing? And also, you may remember Lee Zeldin. Lee Zeldin, who ran for governor and should have won, hands down, of the state of New York. Lee Zeldin tweeted, for anyone wondering, Sandy Cortez is the real-life name growing up of the actress referred to as AOC, raised in a great suburban neighborhood called Yorktown Heights, New York. Sandy had what she would call privilege of a wealthier upbringing than most others. Isn't that amazing? But she's still out there playing this, I'm a rough and tumble Bronx girl. And somebody was saying yesterday, she looks pregnant. Is this true? Have you seen this? That she looks like she's preggers? And I said, why you say that? So, well, look, she's getting all roly-poly over here, getting, I'm guessing she's a peak early kind of girl. I'm thinking about, isn't this amazing? She's still pulling this Bronx tale stuff. What a clown, what a joke. And the fact that a Republican state assemblyman has to step up at this late stage of the game because everything is a lie with these people. You're not. I was born in Westchester County and Pelham Manor, a lot closer to the Bronx than Yorktown Heights. But I was born in Westchester County, and my first few years in complicated story. Lived there, moved away, moved back again to Westchester County, New York. But that's not important now. I don't make it up. like she does. And when you're a Democrat member of Congress, it's no problem. Just make it up. Lie about everything. And they cheer and they applaud the crowds of maroons. What a maroon. You know, the big wireless companies are pulling one over on all of us. It's time to switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I switched. I've got the same fast, reliable, nationwide big wireless coverage, but without the big wireless money, the cost, the bills every month, you know. It's not just about saving money in my bill. It's also about not being used and abused and treated like a chump by the big carriers. Do you even know how much data you use every month? Probably not. Most people over 50 end up using less than 8 gigs of data in a month, but the big wireless companies, they move you into an unlimited plan because they're redistributing money from your bill to cover the costs of younger people who use an awful lot more data than you use. Consumer Cellular set me up with a service and a phone, an unbelievably great phone, and it's incredibly easy to switch. All you do is you make a phone call. You speak to an actual human being based right here in the United States, not a bot on a space platform. Real human beings. Incredibly helpful, and it only takes about 20 minutes. So give Consumer Cellular a call today. Make the switch. Save money. Be happier. Call them at 1-800-760-0702. 1-800-760-0702. Yeah. The Democrats. And I've got President Trump, the Pentagon, the Defense Secretary, War and Peace, and the lies that the Democrats are telling today coming up.
Hey, you know who lives in this house? A great big phony!
Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Now, a big story just broke here. The Supreme Court a little while ago. The headline is, Supreme Court says Planned Parenthood can't challenge South Carolina's funding cuts. The Democrats really want to fund the organ harvest, especially of black babies. They like to get 40 to 50% of black babies in the womb. The Supreme Court on Thursday blocked Planned Parenthood from suing South Carolina over the state's decision to pull the organization's Medicaid funding because it provides abortions. Wait a minute, Planned Parenthood provides abortions? Didn't see that coming. Decision that could prompt other red states, but not Democrats, to target the organization. God, they love abortion, don't they? Democrats are very angry again with the Supreme Court. You know, we've already had one would-be assassin show up, incited by Chuck Schumer, the senator from New York, known as the Lizard King. And now the Supreme Court, infuriating the Democrats again. You know, the old Al-Qaeda saying was, "We love death more than you love life." That was their own slogan. They liked that. They thought that was a good marketing slogan. And, you know, for them it was. And now they should sue the Democrats because the Democrats have kind of poached their saying. It's a mad world out there with these people. But the Supreme Court has now ruled that states, as South Carolina has, can cut off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood. You know, the abortion people. The Democrats call it health care. I think the Nazis called the gas chambers health care, too. Aren't they amazing? With more than 1 million abortions, which there were last year and the year before, we're at a 10 or 12-year high after Roe v. Wade was overturned. 10 or 12-year high for abortions in the United States. So how many years will it take the Democrats to kill as many babies as the Nazis killed Jews? Well, I think that's easy. That's about 6 years, wouldn't it? Maybe 5 years. the Democrats. How long did it take the Nazis? Well, about 5 years, maybe 6 years. Depends on, you're just going to start with the final solution of the Socialist Workers' Party or what? But the headline from the Associated Press, states can cut off Medicaid funding to Planned Parenthood. The Supreme Court rules. I bet there are angry lunatics in front of the Supreme Court right now. I sure hope there are no self-immolations.
We got to start eating babies.
That'll take care of it. So a divided Supreme Court. This is going to be shocking to everyone. A divided Supreme Court. What do you think the ruling was? What was the breakdown? Allowed states to cut off Medicaid money to Planned Parenthood in a ruling handed down Thursday amid a wider Republican-backed push to defund the country's biggest abortion provider. That's the Associated Press. I think the author here, Lindsay Whitehurst, is writing on behalf of Planned Parenthood, the lead sentence. The 6-3 opinion. Wait, another 6-3 ruling? I can't believe that. Honestly, and this is another one where I think Ketanji Brown Jackson should recuse herself because she doesn't know what a woman is, and therefore she shouldn't be allowed to render a verdict, an opinion in these matters.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition? No, I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
She's not a biologist. 6-3 opinion comes in a case that wasn't directly about abortion. It's instead about Medicaid funding for other health care services Planned Parenthood provides, like organ harvesting, like contraception, cancer screenings, and pregnancy tests. There is not a Planned Parenthood clinic in the country that has a mammogram, and I don't believe one ever has. They don't screen for breast cancer. They refer you to somebody else. And then they say, oh, yeah, we do that, but they don't. They just refer you to somebody else. The ruling, authored by Justice Neil Gorsuch, a great American, and joined by the rest of the court's conservatives, could have broader implications for Medicaid patients because it blocks them from suing to make sure they can visit the provider they choose. The Democrats, they're going to sue you to whatever. They're commies. They're filthy, rotten commies, is basically the problem with them. Don't you think?
We do not have mammogram machines at our health centers, and we've never stated that we did.
Cecile Richards, the daughter of Texas, Ann Richards, big hero of the Democrat Party. And a Republican asked, do you guys actually have a mammogram? No, we don't have one ever, nowhere. Never mind that. They lie about everything, kind of like AOC being from the Bronx, being a Bronx girl. And a Republican has to come out and say, you're not even from the Bronx. You went to my high school. Like an hour drive north of the Bronx. The Democrats, aren't they something? Yes, they are. All right, there's more. Oh yeah, I want to get to this one because this is wackadoodle-doo Democrats as well. Just extraordinary. There's a Republican congressman named Brandon Gill, and Brandon Gill he was a hearing as a member of Congress yesterday at a hearing. And they were talking to this Democrat who loves, what does the Democrat love? Oh, loves men having babies. Because in Democrat world, they say that if you're born a girl, you can grow up to be a man, but you can still give birth. Right? Because they're the party of science, and they're completely insane. The Democrat Party is mentally ill, and they need to be addressed. But Brandon Gill, Republican congressman, Texas, yesterday at a hearing that was quite remarkable, and the woman testifying as well. She's funding programs. You know how they love to fund programs that teach what they call trans men about giving birth. Okay? Now, here's the thing. A trans man, the Democrats' so-called trans man, is a woman that they call a man, but because that man is actually a woman, that man, they say, can give birth, but actually only a woman can give birth because, hashtag ovaries, hashtag womb.
This one is called hashtag transcendent health, adapting an LGB plus inclusive teen pregnancy prevention program for transgender boys. I can't even say this without laughing. Do you think that is a useful form of our tax spend?
I am not familiar with that grant, but I think bench research, government investment in scientific and pharmaceutical
teen pregnancy
research.
for transgender boys. Do you think that is a useful spend of our tax dollars?
I think government investment in all kinds of scientific research is of the utmost importance.
Including pregnancy prevention for transgender boys. Okay.
That's right. And she's all in on this. Oh, it's science. And on the television show, did this on Newsmax last night, and the liberal on the television show said, well, it's science.
Who are you who are so wise in the ways of science?
Honestly, they have taken Monty Python and they've made it modern-day reality in their demented worlds. These people are very unwell. And good for Congressman Gill with the program to train transgender boys to give birth. And our Congress and the congressman is right to laugh at them and to scoff at them, to mock them, to ridicule them. They could hardly be more ridiculous. Man, oh, Manischewitz. Also, Jeff Bezos is getting married in Venice, and it's become a revolution against Jeff Bezos because he's spending $55 million on his wedding in Venice, but he's worth, like $200 billion or something, so it's no big deal. And he's marrying a woman who appears to be a very nice-looking person, and she's got a child from a previous marriage, and her ex-husband and her child are there in Venice for the thing. And the left, they've got the long knives out for Jeff Bezos. I've never been more on Jeff Bezos' side in my life. The guy, he's a rich guy. He gets to go to Venice and get married to the woman that he loves. And if he wants to spend a lot of money on it, then Italians are making money off of Jeff Bezos' wedding, and they should be happy about that. But the commies are never happy about anything. They're insane and dangerously so. They're the left. They're not liberals. But here's a former liberal, a former Democrat, Elon Musk. Elon Musk. And you know how I always make fun of, like, Pound Me Too, the Pound Me Too movement? Because I never bought into this hashtag thing. Which liberal decided one day that a pound sign is now going to be called hashtag and we're going to apply it to everything? How completely ridiculous. But Elon Musk has announced he's going to ban hashtags in ads. Now, he owns, the big thing with Twitter and all that. He's going to ban hashtags in ads starting tomorrow. Isn't that wonderful? That's tomorrow, Friday. He's going to ban hashtags because they annoy him. He calls them an aesthetic nightmare. An aesthetic nightmare. He doesn't like the way they look. And I've been mocking this, this whole Pound Me Too stuff and the hashtag this and that. Hashtag bring back our girls. Yeah, where is, did they ever bring back those? I don't think they did. That was Michelle Obama holding that sign with a pouty face. And then she transitioned. So that was weird. Tech billionaire Elon Musk announced on his X platform, they note formerly Twitter, just in case you slipped out of a coma today. Starting tomorrow, he says hashtags will no longer be allowed in advertisements on the platform. Musk described hashtags as an aesthetic nightmare. That's one of the most arbitrary things I've ever heard, but it's kind of funny because he's worth $400 billion. He gets to decide that. He owns the thing. the platform. Starting tomorrow, the aesthetic nightmare that is hashtags will be banned from ads on X, he said in a post. I think that's fun because hashtags, the word doesn't mean anything. The symbol is on your phone pad, and it's, pound me too, pound 67 or whatever for all these things. But he's decided to ban them, and I think that's kind of fun, I've got to say. Good for him. Yeah. Well, Brandon Gill is fighting taxpayer dollars, our taxpayer dollars, going to fund programs to train what Democrats call transgender boys on birth, giving birth. And all of that makes sense. That's not in the newspapers today because mental illness, honestly. Man. All right. Now, then there's Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani, who won. I don't know why they're still dithering about this. Well, he's the presumptive winner of they can't even add votes up. It takes them months sometimes to count the votes. New York City Democratic primary, and the Cuomo, grope-faced Cuomo, the old lady killer, he already conceded long ago, but the news media is still saying the presumptive winner of the Democratic primary race in New York City, Zohran Mamdani, don't mess with the Zohan. He went on TV. Zohan did. Mamdani. He went on Mamdani. He went on with Jen Psaki, the Democrat spokesmodel, on MSDNC yesterday, and it turns out he's a big victim.
You're going to be dealing with tremendous attacks from MAGA Republicans. We've already seen that over the last 24 hours.
Racist?
Including from Stephen Miller, Elise Stefanik, the NRCC. They're already trying to run an Islamophobic campaign against you, which I will just note, and you've lived this, but for people who are just tuning in, is a continuation of some of the tactics that we saw during the primary, but it's going to come tenfold. I know you know that, but how are you going to handle that personally?
That could be tough. Gosh, you're going to have to be such a what was it? Homophobic text? The Islamophobic isn't he homophobic? He's a genocidal anti-Semite. He's a Democrat, and don't mess with the Zohan.
It's sad in that in one sense it's unsurprising, in another it is still deeply disappointing to see what politics has become in this moment.
Yeah, it is. It is tough. Well, maybe it's because you are the Democrat is always the front runner for becoming mayor of our most populous city in New York City. And your radical extremist views on pretty much everything. He wants to have city-run grocery stores, just like in the Soviet Union, back before the fall of the Soviet Union, which was one of the greatest things of the 20th century. And he wants to freeze rent right now. And never have rent go up. $70 billion they're going to go in debt to fund affordable housing. All the buses will be free. All child care will be free. The city buses, did I get the city bus? Because that's a good one. Everybody rides for free. No cost child care. Everybody gets free baby baskets with the newborn. The minimum wage would be $30 an hour. I mentioned that every business will go out of business. And $30 an hour. For all the minimum wage jobs in New York City. And what else? Oh, prostitution becomes legal. Prostitution is legal. And set up heroin use stations around the city because, don't mess with the Zohan. Aren't they amazing? So free to become a prostitute. This is where Democrats want their daughters to go. And then become heroin addicts and die on the sidewalk, but you get a free baby basket. And everything is quote-unquote free. Wall Street is already freaking out. Companies and billionaires. And he's going to raise taxes on the top 1% of earners, which he cannot legally do. But none of that matters to these people. And when I say these people, I mean communist, genocidal, Jew-hating, anti-Semite, radicals, extremists, jihadis, communist. They, the Democrat Party today. And he is the RNC is doing the right thing, making him the face of today's Democrat Party because he is. It's New York City. He's the Democratic nominee for mayor. And they're even in denial about that right now. You know, a couple of days ago, June 24th marked the 3-year anniversary since Roe v. Wade was overturned by our great Supreme Court. But here's something you may not know. It's actually been reported that the numbers of abortions have surged to a 10-year high. Today, more than 1 million babies a year in the United States. And and they call everything else a genocide. More than 60% of those abortions happen by way of the abortion pill, very often taken by women who are all alone. But the preborn network of clinics across the country standing up and standing in the gap, meeting women in their most desperate hour, their hour of need. As abortion numbers continue to rise, Preborn is expanding their life-affirming care into the darkest corners of our nation to help more hurting women and save women, save babies. And, you know, if you have the means, perhaps you could consider a leadership gift to save babies in a big way. Your tax-deductible donation of $15,000 will place a machine and amazing stuff in Needy Women's Center, saving countless lives for years to come. To donate now, any amount, just dial pound 250, and when prompted, say the keyword baby. That's pound 250, the keyword is baby, or go to Al Gore's Amazing Internet to preborn.com/plant. Yes, sir. Yeah, these wacky Democrats. Yeah, he says queer liberation means defund the police. Right. But he's an Islamist. He would throw queer people off of rooftops, wouldn't he? Yeah, defund the police, defund ICE, abolish prisons. He'd make New York so much better we'd have to build a wall around it and send Snake Plissken in.
You're a prostitute.
Well, I don't mess with the Zohran Mamdani out of New York, the leading Democrat in New York City. And if he becomes mayor, the city would become unrecognizable as part of the United States of America. It would be unrecognizable as an American city.